In a world filled with beauty and mystery, Kale wakes up in a colorful meadow, lost and confused. He has no memory of who he is or how he got to Alloria. Fear grips him as he hears soft whispers in the wind, hinting at unseen spirits nearby. Soon, he meets Lysara, a kind spirit who shares a shocking truth. Kale can talk to the spirits of the dead. This gift brings both hope and fear, as he realizes it may lead him to uncover dark secrets about his own past. Kale opened his eyes, the sun shining brightly above him. He lay in a lush meadow, surrounded by a sea of colorful flowers swaying gently in the breeze. Each petal glistened like a jewel, and the air was sweet with their scent. But something felt wrong. Confusion clouded his mind. Where was he? How did he get here? As he sat up, whispers danced through the air, soft and fluttering like the wings of unseen creatures. They seemed to call to him, tugging at the edges of his consciousness. Kyle frowned, a shiver creeping down his spine. "Who's there?" he called out, but only the whispers answered, an echo of something he couldn't quite grasp. Suddenly, the flowers parted, revealing a figure bathed in a soft glow. Lysara, a spirit with eyes that sparkled like stars, stepped forward. Her presence was calming, yet Kale could feel the weight of her gaze. "You can hear them, can't you?" she said, her voice like a gentle melody. "Hear what?" Kale asked, his heart racing. "What do you mean?" "The spirits," she replied, her expression both kind and serious. "They linger here, and you have the gift to communicate with them." Kale's confusion deepened. "Gift? I don't even know who I am or how I got here." Panic bubbled within him, threatening to spill over. "Why can I hear these voices?" Lysara stepped closer, her ethereal form shimmering in the sunlight. "You are in Alloria, a land where the living and the spirits intertwine. Your presence here is not by chance. You possess a rare ability, one that connects you to those who have passed." Kyle shook his head, trying to push away the dread that settled in his chest. "But what if the spirits are angry? What if they want something from me?" He could feel the whispers growing louder, like a storm brewing in the distance. "They only seek understanding," Lysara said gently. "But you must be cautious. Some spirits carry deep wounds, and their pain might lead you to dark truths about yourself." As her words sank in, Kale's heart raced. Dark truths? What could that mean? He had no memories, no anchor to hold on to. The idea of discovering something sinister about himself terrified him. "I don't want to know," he whispered, fear gripping him. Lysara regarded him with compassion. "Ignorance may seem safe, but it can also be a prison. You have the chance to uncover who you truly are, Kale. Embrace it, and you may find the answers you seek." Kale looked around the meadow, the vibrant colors now seeming almost mocking against the turmoil inside him. "What if I'm not ready?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Then take your time," she replied, her smile reassuring. "But know that the spirits will not wait forever. They need your help, just as you need to understand your own past." With a deep breath, Kale closed his eyes, letting the whispers wash over him. They were soft, like a lullaby. But beneath the surface, he sensed a haunting sorrow. "What do you want from me?" he called out, desperation creeping into his voice. The wind picked up, swirling around him, and for a moment, he felt a presence, an energy that resonated with his very being. "Help us," the voices seemed to say, a chorus of longing and regret. Kale opened his eyes, determination igniting within him. He may not know who he was or what lay ahead, but he felt an undeniable pull toward the spirits. "I'll help you," he declared, his voice steady. "Just tell me what I need to do." Lysara beamed, her light brightening. "Together, we will uncover the mysteries of Alloria. But be prepared, Kyle. The path ahead may reveal truths that could change everything." With a mix of fear and resolve, Kale nodded. The journey into the unknown had begun, and deep down, he felt a flicker of hope amidst the uncertainty. the whispers continued, a haunting melody that promised both danger and discovery. Kale and Lysara stepped into the enchanted forest of alloria. Tall trees loomed around them, their leaves shimmering like emeralds in the sunlight. The air buzzed with life, but a heavy feeling settled in Kale's chest. He could sense the spirits lingering just out of sight, whispering secrets that only he could hear. "Where are we going?" Kyle asked, glancing at Lysara. Her ethereal form glowed softly, a sign of her gentle nature. "We are searching for the spirits that need our help," Lysara replied, her voice calm and soothing. "Each spirit has a story, and sometimes they just need someone to listen." As they walked deeper into the forest, a chill swept through the air. Kale shivered and pulled his cloak tighter around him. Suddenly, they came upon a clearing where a tall man stood, his face twisted in grief and anger. His eyes glinted with a fierce light. "Who are you?" Kale asked, stepping forward cautiously. "I am Idrin," the man replied, his voice full of sorrow. "I seek vengeance for the betrayal that destroyed my life." Kale felt a wave of sympathy wash over him. Adrian's pain resonated in his heart, stirring feelings he could not fully understand. "What happened to you?" he asked gently. Adrian clenched his fists, his body trembling with rage. "I was betrayed by my closest friend. He took everything from me, and now I want him to pay." Lysara stepped closer, her expression serious. "Idrin, vengeance will not bring you peace. It will only deepen your pain." Kale watched the spirit closely. He could see the conflict brewing within Idrin, just as he felt conflict inside himself. Should he help Idrin seek revenge, or should he guide him toward forgiveness? "Kyle," Lysara said softly, sensing his turmoil. "What do you feel?" Kyle hesitated. "I understand his pain. I can feel it. But revenge seems wrong. What if there is another way?" "Listen to your heart," Lysara encouraged. "Your gift allows you to connect with these spirits. Use it wisely." As Kale pondered his decision, flashes of memories flickered in his mind, images of betrayal, loss, and sorrow. He gasped as a realization struck him. "This pain, it's familiar. I have felt this before." "What do you mean?" Lysara asked, concern filling her voice. "I don't know," Kyle replied, shaking his head. "But I feel a connection to Idran. I need to find out why." Idran's voice broke through his thoughts. "You can help me. You can make him pay for what he did." Kale looked at Idran, his heart heavy. "I want to help you, but I can't support revenge. It may only lead to more suffering." Idran's eyes blazed with anger. "You don't understand. He took my life. I will not rest until he pays." "Maybe what you seek is not revenge but closure," Lysara suggested gently. "Forgiveness can be more powerful than vengeance." Kale nodded in agreement. "Idran, think about it. Holding on to this anger will only weigh you down. Letting go might free you." Idran's expression softened for a moment, doubt flickering in his eyes. "Forgiveness? How can I forgive someone who has done this to me?" "It's not easy," Kale admitted, "but it can heal wounds that revenge cannot touch. You deserve peace." The spirit trembled, caught between hate and hope. "I don't know if I can forgive him," Idran whispered, his voice cracking. "Start by letting go of the burden," Lysara encouraged. "You do not have to forget, but you can choose to unchain yourself from the past." Kyle took a step forward, reaching out a hand. "Join me in this journey. Together, we can find a way to heal." Idran looked at Kale, uncertainty written across his face. "You truly believe this can work?" "Yes," Kale replied firmly. "I believe that you can find peace." The forest around them felt still, as if waiting for Idran's decision. After a long pause, the spirit lowered his head, the fire in his eyes dimming. "I will try, for my own sake." Kale felt a weight lift from his chest. He had made a choice, one that would shape the path ahead for all of them. As they stood in the clearing, the whispers of the forest grew louder, echoing the promise of healing and the call of the spirits yet to come. As Kael and Lysara continued their journey through the enchanted forest of Alloria, the air grew thick with an unspoken tension. The trees, tall and ancient, whispered softly, echoing the struggles of the spirits that lingered within their trunks. It was in this moment that they stumbled upon another spirit, a woman with a sorrowful gaze that pierced through the veil of the living. "Help me," she pleaded, her voice trembling like the leaves in the wind. "I seek forgiveness for what I have done." Kael felt a wave of empathy wash over him. He stepped closer, his heart heavy with the weight of her pain. "What happened?" he asked gently, wanting to know the story behind her despair. The woman's eyes filled with tears as she began to speak. "I was selfish in life. I hurt those I loved for my own gain. I thought only of myself and ignored their suffering. Now I am bound to this place, tormented by my guilt." Lysara stood beside Kael, her expression solemn as she listened. "Guilt can be a heavy burden to bear," she said softly, "but forgiveness can lighten that weight." Kael looked at the woman, feeling a strange connection to her sorrow. "Do you wish to find forgiveness?" he inquired. "What can we do to help you?" "I need to confront those I wronged," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I fear they will never forgive me." Kael thought of his own past and the mistakes he could not remember. "Maybe they can forgive you," he said, a flicker of hope igniting within him. "Perhaps we can help you find them." The woman nodded, her spirit rising slightly at the thought. "Will you help me?" she asked, her voice trembling with hope. "Of course," Kael promised, glancing at Lysara, who nodded in agreement. "We will do this together." As they prepared to search for the woman's past, Kael felt a shifting within him. The stories of the spirits were weaving into his own memories, each tale pulling him closer to the truth of his life. He looked to Lysara, wanting to share his thoughts. "Do you think that forgiveness can truly heal someone?" he asked. Lysara considered his question. "Forgiveness is a powerful force," she said, "but it requires courage, both to ask for it and to give it. I have faced this struggle myself." Kael's curiosity piqued. "What do you mean?" he urged. With a deep breath, Lysara began to share her story. "In my past, I was consumed by vengeance. I lost someone I loved dearly, and I wanted to make those responsible pay. But in my quest for revenge, I lost sight of who I was. I was trapped in a cycle of pain until I learned to forgive." Kael listened closely, piecing together the depth of her experience. "How did you find the strength to forgive?" he asked. "It was not easy," Lysara admitted. "It took time and reflection. I had to confront my own actions, to understand that holding on to anger only chained me to my past. I chose to forgive, not for them, but for myself." Kael felt a stirring in his heart. He began to realize that his own journey mirrored Lysara's in ways he had not yet understood. "I think I have wronged others too," he said quietly, his voice shaking with emotion. "But I can't remember." "Your memories will come in time," Lysara reassured him. "What matters now is that you are willing to confront them when they do." As the woman's spirit settled into a moment of reflection, Kael glanced at her, sensing a shift in her energy. "Are you ready to face your past?" he asked softly. With determination, the woman nodded. "Yes, I am ready. I want to make things right." Together, they began to walk deeper into the forest, guided by the whispers of the spirits around them. Kael felt the weight of his own unresolved guilt pressing down on him, but he also felt a flicker of hope. Each step forward was a step toward understanding, not just for the woman, but for himself as well. As they ventured further, Kael's heart swelled with the knowledge that forgiveness was not just a destination, it was a journey they would all take together. As Kael and Lysara moved deeper into the enchanted forest of Alloria, the air thickened with an unsettling energy. The once vibrant colors of the trees began to fade, overshadowed by a creeping darkness that seemed to whisper secrets of despair. Shadows danced among the branches, and a chill ran down Kyle's spine. "What is this darkness?" Kyle asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Lysara paused, her gaze scanning the shadows. "It is the pain of the unresolved spirits, Kyle. They linger here, trapped between their past and the afterlife. Their sorrow feeds the darkness." Kyle felt a tightening in his chest. He had witnessed the struggles of spirits before, but this felt different. This darkness was alive, breathing and pulsating with a hunger that made him feel small. "Can't we help them?" he asked, desperation creeping into his tone. "We can," Lysara replied, her eyes filled with determination. "But first, you must confront your own shadows. Only then can we face this darkness together." As they walked further, the shadows began to take shape, swirling around them like a storm. Kale felt their weight pressing down on him, memories that were not his own surfacing in flashes of pain and regret. Faces appeared, strangers and loved ones alike, each one a reminder of the unresolved feelings he carried. "Kale, focus," Lysara urged, sensing his struggle. "You must not let them overwhelm you." "I can't," he shouted, falling to his knees. "I don't even know who I am. How can I face this?" Lysara knelt beside him, her presence a calming force. "You have the power to find the truth within you. Remember the spirits you have helped. Their stories are a part of you now. You must accept your past, every mistake and every choice." Kale closed his eyes, taking a deep breath. He thought of the man seeking vengeance, the woman begging for forgiveness. Their struggles mirrored his own, and he realized that he too needed to forgive himself. "But what if I can't?" he whispered, doubt creeping back in. "You can," she insisted, her voice steady. "You must. The darkness will not go away on its own. It needs your acceptance to lose its power." Gathering his strength, Kale rose to his feet. He opened his eyes, now shining with a newfound determination. "I will face it," he declared. "I will confront my past." As he stepped forward, the shadows writhed and twisted, forming a dark figure at the edge of the clearing. It loomed over them, its presence cold and foreboding. "You wish to confront me?" it hissed, its voice echoing like a distant thunder. "Yes!" Kale shouted, his heart racing. "I will not run away anymore." The dark figure laughed, a sound that sent chills through Kale. "You think you can defeat me? I am the embodiment of your fears, your regrets. You cannot escape me." Kyle felt the weight of the figure's words, but he pressed on. "I may not escape you, but I will not be ruled by you. I accept my past, and I will find peace." Lysara stepped beside him, her spirit glowing brightly. "Together, we can break the chains that bind these spirits and ourselves. We choose forgiveness over despair." The darkness hesitated, its form flickering as if unsure. "Forgiveness," it sneered. "What is forgiveness but a weakness?" "No," Kale replied, his voice steady. "It is strength. It is the first step toward healing." With those words, he felt a surge of energy within him. The memories, once painful, began to transform into lessons of growth. He realized that every mistake had shaped him into who he was meant to be. The figure shrieked, the sound piercing the air as Kale and Lysara stood firm. "You cannot wield forgiveness against me," it bellowed, but Kale felt the shadows shrinking back. "I can and I will," he shouted, his heart pounding with hope. "I am not afraid anymore." As the darkness writhed and twisted, Kale and Lysara joined hands, their combined light pushing against the shadows. Together, they stood their ground, ready to confront the darkness that had haunted them for so long. Kale stood at the edge of the darkened woods, his heart racing with determination. The shadows loomed around him, swirling like a tempest. He could feel the weight of the spirits behind him, their whispers like a soft breeze urging him forward. Lysara floated beside him, her presence calming yet urgent. "Kyle, you must do this," she said, her voice steady. "The darkness feeds on their pain. You can help them find peace." Taking a deep breath, Kyle stepped into the shadows. "I can't do this alone," he replied, glancing back at the spirits gathered behind him. "They need to understand what's happening." Lysara nodded, her luminous form shining brighter in the gloom. "You have the power to reach them. Use your gift. Speak to their hearts." Kale closed his eyes, reaching out with his mind and spirit. He could feel the presence of the lost souls around him, their emotions swirling like a storm. He focused, channeling his thoughts into the darkness. "Spirits of Alloria, hear me," he called, his voice echoing through the trees. "You are not alone. I am here to help you find peace." The shadows shifted, and Kale could see the faces of the spirits. They looked at him with a mix of hope and despair. A man stepped forward, his eyes filled with longing. "We cannot move on. We are trapped by our pain," he said, his voice heavy with sorrow. Kale stepped closer, his heart aching for the man. "I understand your pain. I have felt it too, but holding on to anger will not free you. You must forgive, for yourself and for those who wronged you." The man hesitated, looking back at the other spirits. "Forgiveness? How can I forgive those who betrayed me? Forgiveness is not for them." Kale replied gently. "It is for you. It is what will allow your spirit to be free. You must let go." As Kale spoke, he could see the shadows around them shift, the darkness flickering as if it were alive. The spirits began to murmur among themselves, their voices rising and falling like a wave. Lysara floated closer to Kale. "You must help them see," she said. "You have the strength to lead them to forgiveness." Kyle turned to the gathering spirits. "Look around you," he urged. "You are not alone in your suffering. We all have our scars. We all have our regrets, but we can heal together. You must unite against the darkness." A woman stepped forward, her face streaked with tears. "I have wronged so many," she confessed. "How can I ever ask for their forgiveness?" "By starting with yourself," Kale said firmly. "You must forgive yourself for your past. Only then can you move forward." The spirits listened, their faces reflecting the struggle within them. Kale could feel their pain, but he also sensed their flickering hope. He took a deep breath, allowing the warmth of Lysara's presence to fill him with courage. "Together, we can confront this darkness," he continued. "We can show it that our pain does not define us. We can choose to forgive and let go." The man who had first spoken nodded slowly, a spark of understanding in his eyes. "If we join together, we can find peace," he said, his voice gaining strength. "Yes," Kale exclaimed, feeling the energy shift around them. "Forgiveness is our weapon. Let us unite against this force that holds us captive." As the spirits began to gather closer, their forms shimmering with newfound resolve, Kale felt a surge of hope. They were ready. Together, they faced the darkness, their combined strength illuminating the shadows. "Now!" Kale shouted, raising his arms. "Let us release our pain! Let us confront this darkness with love and forgiveness!" The spirits raised their voices in unison, a chorus of determination. The shadows writhed and twisted, but they were met with a wave of light that surged from the spirits' hearts. "Forgiveness!" they cried out together, the word echoing through the woods like a powerful spell. The darkness recoiled, its form shifting and trembling under the force of their emotions. Kale felt a profound connection with each spirit, their pain intertwining with his own. In that moment, he realized that forgiveness was not only for them, it was for himself as well. As the darkness began to dissolve, Kale closed his eyes, embracing the warmth of acceptance. He had faced his fears, and he had chosen the path of redemption. With the darkness finally vanquished, The air in Alloria felt lighter. Kyle stood in the meadow, watching as the spirits began to find their peace. Soft, warm light surrounded them as they floated upward, their whispers now gentle and full of gratitude. Each spirit released a sigh of relief, shedding the burdens they had carried for so long. Kyle felt a sense of calm wash over him, a reflection of the healing that had taken place within himself. "Thank you, Kyle," a voice called out from behind him. It was Lysara, her glowing form shimmering in the sunlight. "You have done what many could not. You helped them find their way." Kyle turned to face her, a mix of joy and sorrow filling his heart. "I couldn't have done it without you, Lysara. You were my guide. You showed me how to confront my past." Lysara smiled, but her eyes held a hint of sadness. "Our journey together has changed us both, but now it is time for me to move on." Kale's heart sank at the thought of losing her. "Will I ever see you again?" he asked, his voice trembling. "Every time you help another spirit, I will be with you," she replied softly. "You have the power to guide others, just as I guided you. This is your new purpose." As she spoke, the spirits continued to rise, their forms becoming brighter and more ethereal. Kale watched in awe, feeling a connection to each one of them. They were no longer lost, they were free. "Goodbye, Kale," Lysara said, her voice like a whisper in the wind. "Remember, you are never alone." With those final words, her form began to dissolve into light, merging with the other spirits. Kyle felt a tear slip down his cheek as he reached out, but it was too late. She was gone, leaving a bittersweet ache in his heart. Kale took a deep breath, grounding himself in the present. He glanced around the meadow, the place where his journey had begun. The flowers swayed gently in the breeze, vibrant and full of life. The meadow felt like a part of him now, a reminder of all he had learned. "I will honor your memory, Lysara," he whispered to the wind. "I will help others find peace." With a renewed sense of purpose, Kale began to walk through the meadow. He thought of the spirits he had encountered and the lessons they had shared. Each story had taught him something important about forgiveness, love, and healing. He wanted to take that knowledge and use it to help others who faced the same struggles. As he walked, he noticed a faint glow in the distance. Curiosity sparked within him. It was a small gathering of people, their faces somber yet hopeful. Kyle approached them, his heart racing. He could sense their pain, their unresolved feelings. "What brings you here?" Kyle asked gently, as he stepped closer. One of the women in the group looked up, her eyes filled with tears. "We have lost someone dear," she said, her voice trembling. "We don't know how to let go." Kale felt a tug at his heart. This was his calling. "I can help," he said, his voice steady. "Together, we can find peace for your loved one." The group looked at him with a mix of hope and uncertainty. "How?" another man asked. "How can we help them?" Kyle took a deep breath, recalling all he had learned. "We will listen to their story. We will honor their memory and allow them to share their pain. Only then can they find their way to peace." The group nodded slowly, their expressions shifting from doubt to determination. Kale felt a sense of warmth spread through him, as if Lysara were with him in spirit. As they gathered in a circle, Kale closed his eyes, reaching out to the spirit of the lost one. He felt the familiar whispers of alloria wrap around him, guiding him. The meadow, once a place of confusion, had become a sanctuary for healing. Standing there, Kale realized he was no longer a stranger to himself. He was a bridge between the living and the dead, a guide to those who needed help. With each spirit he would assist, he would also continue to heal himself. The sun began to set, casting a golden hue across the meadow. Kale stood tall, ready to embrace his new life, surrounded by the connections he had forged. A new dawn was rising in Alloria, and he was ready to help others find their light. Share this story if you believe that healing and connection can transform even the deepest pain. Leave a comment about a time when you helped someone find peace, and subscribe to the channel for more inspiring tales like this one. Together, let's spread light and hope